Hello, health champions. Today we're going to talk about warning signs that you could experience before a heart attack. And the first sign is that you would have unusual fatigue, meaning you're tired for no specific reason. And if your heart isn't working all that well, then you could have what's called ischemia. That's a very common term related to heart problems, and it simply means lack of blood. And the blood, of course, carries the nutrients and the oxygens to all the cells in the body, including the heart and the heart muscle. And if the heart isn't getting the resources that it needs, then of course the heart's going to be struggling because it's still asked to perform the same work. But if it's struggling, then there's going to be less blood provided to the body. And if the body doesn't get the blood and the oxygen, now there's going to be less energy produced for all the cells in the body, and this could lead to fatigue. But this fatigue, it's different than just sleepiness. It's more of a physical fatigue, that you're just tired, especially with exertion. But in severe cases and later stages, you could also have this fatigue at rest. So at first, it would be that you're tired when you try to do something, but it's not the same thing as being sleepy. And also, this is general and persistent. So it's not just like one body part and now and then. It's pretty much all the time, and it affects the whole body. And another thing that can happen is mild angina, which is chest pain or chest pressure, chest discomfort. And if you have ischemia, if there's not oxygen and resources delivered to the heart and it's struggling, then you can also get this discomfort and this pressure. And of course, both of these now is a problem that can progress to a heart attack. And these first few symptoms I marked in yellow because they are mild. And that means that they would probably happen a lot longer before a heart attack. And that's key that we need to understand, because a lot of times we hear people say something like that. He was healthy as a horse. He was doing just fine, and then he had a heart attack. And that's not true. He wasn't fine. If you have a heart attack, you were not healthy the day before the heart attack, because that's a disease process that takes decades. And some of these signs are going to show up years and years before, whereas some of the more severe ones could be happening maybe just a week before. And sign number 3 is shortness of breath. So again, we have a lack of blood to the body, and if the body doesn't get oxygen, now it's going to be looking for more oxygen. So of course, you're going to be trying to breathe faster, but you're going to feel like you can't catch a breath. But there's one more thing that happens, and if the heart is struggling, if it's not pumping and circulating that blood properly, now there's going to be a backlog, and that backlog is going to create an increase of pressure to the lungs in the pulmonary veins, the blood vessels that take the blood from the heart to the lungs. And if that is backing up, now there's going to be increased pressure in this vein, and we're going to have fluid seeping out. It's going to leak out into the lungs, into the tissues there. And the lungs, of course, the purpose is to absorb oxygen and to release carbon dioxide. And we need these little compartments, the alveoli of the lungs, to be humid, to be moist, but not wet. And by the way, if you spread out the total surface of these little alveoli, it's about the size of a tennis court. So it's a huge surface. But if we have leakage, now there's going to be less of a gas exchange. The surface area is going to be reduced, and we're not going to have the same capacity to absorb oxygen and get rid of carbon dioxide. And again, with these mild signs, they may only show up in the beginning during exertion, when you climb stairs or when you do a workout or something strenuous. But as this progresses, then these signs could show up even at rest. Sign number 4 is that you could be sweating even though you're at rest. You're not exerting yourself, you're not exercising, and yet you're sweating. And the reason is that when your heart has stress, because it's not getting the resources, now we have a stress response. Because when the heart is stressed, that's a significant stress on the body, and we activate the sympathetic nervous system. And part of that sympathetic nervous system is increased sweating, just like during a fight-flight response. So if you have a bear chasing you or if you're running, then it's normal for that sympathetic activation to happen. But it can also happen if the heart is stressed. Number 5 is unexplained weakness. And now we have shifted to orange, meaning that these are more severe. These are like moderate severity of signs and symptoms. And this is different than the general fatigue. This is more of a physical weakness, and this often can be more localized. So it's almost like your legs don't carry you or your arms won't perform the work. And it could also be a sudden onset. And if you get any of these signs more suddenly and more severely, then this could signal that a heart attack is on its way. Sign number 6 is nausea and vomiting. And why could that happen with heart stress? Well, it's due to the vagus nerve. Vagus means wanderer because that nerve is wandering all the way from the cranium. It's a cranial nerve, and it goes all the way down into your belly. And it is the parasympathetic outflow, meaning the opposite of the fight-flight. And that means it's the feed-breathe or the parasympathetic nerve. So it slows things down. So the vagus nerve is the nerve supply that slows down the heart. The fight-flight speeds it up and the vagus slows it down. But when it is slowing down, when we don't have a fight-flight response, that's also when we're trying to get resources to the gut to digest food. That's where we're getting the blood flow to the digestive tract. But if we have a lot of stress, extreme stress on the heart, for example, now we're firing off these nerves with very high signals, high frequencies, and there can be a little bit of an overflow on these nerves. So the signals get mixed up, and the heart signals and the gut signals aren't separated as clearly, so they start affecting each other. And now, if we have heart stress, the body is reacting with nausea and vomiting. Sign number 7 is that you could get dizzy or lightheaded. And why is that? Because we said that when the heart doesn't get the resources, it decreases the output. And the hardest place to get the blood to flow is, of course, against gravity. And the head is the furthest away from the heart in terms of gravity. So if we reduce the cardiac output, now the brain can suffer because there's less blood flow to the brain. If there's less blood flow, there's less nutrients, less oxygen, and we could experience some lightheadedness. So some of these signs are early signs and some are medium or moderate signs. And we really want to do something as soon as possible, because once we get into the severe signs that we're going to talk about, very often it can be too late. It may just be the time that we're having that heart attack, the same day or the next day. And if we understand that the degeneration of the heart is closely linked to metabolic disease, to the foods we eat, how we exercise, to the stress we have, all the different things that I talk about on this channel. We talk about chemical stress, which is environmental toxins and good food or bad food. We talk about exercise, which is sedentary living versus movement. And we talk about stress, which is where you have peace of mind versus feeling overwhelmed. So if we do something about this early, if we understand how it affects the body, then we can prevent this or we can restore health to a degree. And while it's not the only factor, the number one cause is insulin resistance and metabolic disease. And that's why I talk so much about it on this channel. And there are also 500-600 other videos that talk about these concepts so that you can understand them properly. And if you really want to dig into the details, I've also done a blood work course where we analyze this stuff in a little bit more detail. And I put a link down below for you if you want to check that out. Sign number 8 is severe pain or pressure across the chest. And some people have described this as if an elephant is sitting on. It's a crushing chest pressure. And this is because of significant blockage. There's a significant reduction in blood flow to the heart, and now the heart is really suffering. And when it gets this severe, that could be that final warning. So if you have experienced something like that, don't ignore it. Make sure that you get checked out and you do something about it. Sign number 9 is also very severe. It is when you have pain and it's radiating out into the left arm, and you could also have this pain in the jaw, in the neck, or in the shoulders. And the reason that we get this is called referred pain. And it's kind of like the vagus, that nerve signals can get mixed up if they're close to each other on where they're coming off the spine, and if there is intense stimulation, such as during a heart crisis. And the reason is that these body parts we talked about, they have shared sensory pathways with the heart. They all come off the spinal cord somewhere in the upper thoracic and the lower cervical area. And this represents significant heart stress. We are probably going to have some tissue damage because we're depriving the heart severely of blood flow and oxygen. And again, this is a very serious sign that you absolutely do not want to ignore. Sign number 10 is severe shortness of breath. So we mentioned before that you could have some mild shortness of breath with exercise. Well, when it gets severe, you're probably going to have it all the time, even at rest. And now we have two big problems compounding. We have this fluid buildup in the lungs that we talked about, but now it's getting more severe. So we have less gas exchange, less oxygen in the blood, but at the same time, we have a heart that is weaker and weaker. So we reduce that cardiac output, so it's pumping even less blood, and there is less oxygen in the blood that is being pumped. So it's like this vicious cycle now, and we have a severe compromise of our cardiovascular function, and that heart is in severe distress. And if we haven't already, we really need to get some help right away. And the solution, of course, is to change your lifestyle on many different levels as soon as possible, as early as possible in this disease process. And I have hundreds of videos that talk about just how to do that. If you enjoyed this video, you're going to love that one. And if you truly want to master health by understanding how the body really works, make sure you subscribe, hit that bell, and turn on all the notifications so you never miss a life-saving video.